All right, welcome to another episode of the Kings of Causeway podcast. Talking round two, game two. I don't even know if I want to talk about this, to be honest. This is some fucking bullshit.
I already erased it from my memory. We're on to game three.
I want to preface it yet again. We are going to be talking about a lot of things on this podcast. The one thing I do want to mention, just like in game 5 and game 6 of round 1, these Bruins did not play well enough to deserve to win this hockey game by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm not even saying that we were robbed or stolen or anything of that nature. However, I have a feeling I know where you're going to want to start.
Yeah,
and it's probably where a lot of people want to start. There's some significant inconsistencies coming from the Zebras in this game, in this series so far. This game in particular. It started 13 seconds in or 14, whatever it was, with a clear like, what the fuck did we just call?
Let's make it clear. Yeah, even game 7 against Toronto, I'm willing to admit we did not deserve to win that game up until the time we scored that goal. So I'm first one to admit we did not do anything well enough to win this game. However, I texted you. You know, obviously you were like, "Hey, JVR flopped."
I did. I thought he did. I thought I didn't do the So to clarify, I didn't do the digging you did.
I did it after you said that because I was like, I need to make sure I saw what I saw in live because to me it was like, if 4 refs watched that and not one of them thought that was a trip, something's wrong with the fucking NHL refereeing.
I thought he went down soft. I didn't think in live it didn't look like the stick was anywhere near him. It looked like he was trying to like jump over a stick and then just flop, is what I thought live. Honestly, I yelled at the TV live. I was like, stay on your fucking feet. When you went back into the screen grab, I was like, oh, he couldn't have stayed on his feet because there was a piece of wood in between his skate and the ice, and that's why what looked like a flop. Like, it was just so egregious that the flop must have just looked like a flop, but it really wasn't.
And again, maybe I let that one go or whatever. We get a makeup call later, but there are already a couple weak calls by the referee. I mean,
starting with that first one, 15 seconds in.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know there was a rule for ripping off someone's helmet. I feel like they're in a scrum, like that happens all the time.
And in that ripping off the helmet one in particular, first off, Swayman gets hacked. And Brazo standing up for him. B, Brazo then pushes him away, where he then forearm shivers another guy, all with his helmet still on. So all of those shenanigans happened before this alleged penalty.
Insane.
Which just, I don't know, blew my mind. But it would somehow get worse for their second. Like, I understand there's a little bit of leeway with the offside, or not the offside, the icing. When you're in the general vicinity of the red line and you chuck one in, it's generally not icing. To have earlier in this game, we have an icing called when Pasternak is dead tied, if not winning the race. It has always been, if the guy is close to winning that, they just let it play. If the guy is skating his ass off to cover there, you just kind of let it go if it's like that. For this one, where the tip happened was way closer to the neutral zone faceoff dot on Florida's side than the red line. For that to be waved off,
it was an icing with the tip. Yeah, it was an icing.
Exactly. Because of how far away it was from the red line. The
problem with whatever. If it's called icing when the icing happens, probably fine. The problem is the ref. If you go back and watch that one, because I had to on this game, I was like, if we're gonna get blown out, I need to go watch this shit. And fucking sure enough, the ref does not wave the icing off until it's already at our red line. So Swayman goes back. Like, all of our players stopped skating.
Oh, you're saying outside the trap at the trapezoid. Swayman goes out to
Like,
play because the ref's given no indication icing or no icing. So he's like, shit, I have to do something.
But if the ref waves it off when the tip happens back at the blue line or in between the blue line and red line, we probably have enough time to say, oh shit, he waved it off. Let's skate back. You go back and watch, all our players stop because it was so blatantly an icing, and he waved it off late, and then we were caught in like a 3-on-1 or 3-on-1, 3-on-2 situation.
Yeah, I mean that.
It's the time.
Yeah, the timing on some of these are terrible. But at the same time, we had 15 shots in a playoff game. We had 12 shots until they were up 5-1 before we had our 13th shot. That's simply not good enough. That's not good enough.
I felt like we honestly did play really well in the first period, and I'll equate this similar to kind of what I felt like after game one. We both kind of said it. We didn't feel like Florida deserved like necessarily a 5-1 loss. Like, it was a lot closer of a game until it got 3-1, 4-1, and it cascaded. Same thing happened with us. It could have been a 2-2 game, a 3-1 game, and once we kind of realized it was getting away after that icing call, we stopped playing. So
agreed. The one thing I look to with that though is
15 minutes with no shot in net, regardless of what you're doing,
is terrible. I want to talk briefly about the giant waste of ice space and oxygen that is Patrick Maroon.
Yeah, I mean,
what the fuck is he in this lineup for? He looks slow. He looks slow. He looks clumsy, which is fine. If he's not 100%, get him out of the fucking lineup.
If he can't go in there
and be the big bet, but he's not garbage even doing that right now. He doesn't even want to. He got thrown out on that garbage roughing that shouldn't even have been a roughing. But he didn't do any of the roughing. This was not oh shit, Pat Maroon just murdered that dude. That is not what this was.
For all the shit talking he did at the end of last game, he needs to be willing to throw it with someone.
And I don't know if it's the coach not letting him. I don't know if he's scared. It sure seemed like before the Pastrnak-Tkachuk fight that Pasta was chirping at Montgomery, who told him to sit the fuck down, and Pasta was pissed. And then Pasta gets on the ice, and I think he was asking the coach, can I go fight this dude? And I think Monty said absolutely not. And then Pasta said, fuck you, I'm doing it.
I actually thought Monty said fine, kind of just gave in, fuck it, go do it then. And that, if that's the case, I don't like that regardless. Curious if it was Pasta's own kind of, doing it out of spite. Because if Monty gave him the green light, that's not fucking okay. You don't send a guy like Pastrnak out there against a Matthew Tkachuk. That's just asking for a problem or an injury when we don't need it in this series.
We can't afford it.
The game was already decided.
Flat out, we can't afford it in the series.
Although maybe it woke Pastrnak up because I don't think he's had a shot in 4.5 periods.
Yeah, it's bad.
On net, at least. It's not blocked.
Bad. It's bad.
I will say this. I'm as bad as this game was, I am buying into this team and what they're willing to do for each other. They have each other's backs. I loved what we saw at the end of the game, personally. I didn't really think they had it in them. I thought a couple guys did, but to see it from the entire fucking team up and down the lineup.
Why did it take until we were down 6-1, though? Where was this fight for one another? Where is this fight for one another when it's 3-1 coming out? I texted you at the intermission. I thought we were cooked. You disagreed. I wanted to believe in you, and then 90 seconds in, and then 90 seconds in, and here we are, and it's 4-1. And it's just it's there was no fight right after that. There was no fight or belief in one another. There wasn't even all right, shit, Monty just changed the goalies on us. Fuck that. We got to get riled up and do so. We didn't even do that.
Yeah.
It took another goal and then another goal. I would love to buy in with what you're saying on hey, these boys are willing to fight with one another or fight for one another. I don't think that was anybody fighting for one another at the end. I think that was everybody just individually frustrated individually. Because for me, I think you fight for the team earlier than that, personally.
I think fair enough, but I think they realized that they weren't going to make up the difference, and they're going to go fight for it on the scoreboard next game back in Boston.
And if that's the case, then I will fully come back and point to this might have been a turning point.
Yeah, they had to show something. You can't just let 15 minutes go by 6-1 and just do nothing.
The fact of the matter is we're not going to know the effect until Friday night. On Friday night, in the first 10, 15 minutes, we are going to see whether or not this was a wake-up call or we did the best we could, boys. Here we are, and here we go.
Yeah.
Because I think we're on the precipice of that. I think they were talking about it a little bit, which is also bullshit in my opinion. And I go very intently into my own world during these games because I can't stand national commentators and how much they always seem to hate the Bruins. Always. Doesn't matter who it is, whether it's ESPN or TNT or TBS or whoever the fuck has the game. They always seem to find something wrong, even when we're doing well. So I try not to listen. At some point, I just got so numb, I didn't realize that my music had stopped, and so I was just listening to what they were saying. They were like, well, you were saying last time that the 5-1 game didn't really seem like it was a fair scoreline, whereas this 6-1 seems like a really fair scoreline. And I about skull punted my TV off the wall.
Yeah, I mean,
because the last 3 goals were purely done out of mental mistakes and frustration on the Bruins' part, but not things that they had shown at any point in the playoffs leading up to this. Like they got flustered, pissed off, and it makes Florida look good. It does. I
think you throw out every goal that came after the 3-1 because the fourth goal was the icing one, so to me, anything after
3-1 and the 3-1 with 1 second left. I'm gonna call him out, but if Brad Marchand gets that puck the fuck out of the zone with less than 10 seconds, Swayman already made 3 saves in a row with less than 15 seconds to draw that face off. You win. You finally win a face off in the defensive zone, and then you just numbnuts it off the board. They keep it in. As soon as that one went, that was why I told you we were cut. It was just, it wasn't even how they were playing. It was just the bounces. The things aren't going to happen for us this game. They're not. Our guys are missing their board spots. They're missing their tape to tapes. They just didn't have it. And I think it was all wrapped up in captain turnover, just blowing in the last 10 seconds of it. We're at that point, take the icing. Because by the time they get down there's going to be 0.4 seconds left. And then nothing can happen because you need 0.7 seconds to get a goal.
I definitely jinxed him. I texted you early on. I felt like Brad Marchand.
You did.
Back. He came out with the energy. He came out with the kind of grit and nastiness. I feel like he put it all together in the first 10 minutes. Unfortunately, that didn't follow through because I 100% agree with you. It's almost like if anyone but him. That was directly after the James Van Riemsdyk call.
Right.
And then to see your captain kind of we get one blown where we could have tied it 2-2 to then watch your captain basically hand them a goal twice. He didn't clear it, and then he screened the goalie and he blocked the shot.
Screened the goal, right, yeah. The other
if that happens from a beacher, maybe the boys pick themselves up. But
I texted you at the intermission. Yeah. It's now who do the boys look to at the second intermission? Because captain, what the fuck, just gave it away. Who do you look to? Who can stand up in the center of that locker room and be like, let's fucking go. The only way you counteract that is by sheer effort in the first 90 seconds of the third period. And instead we came out like we were expecting Florida to try to protect their lead, which they immediately did not. And it genuinely seemed to surprise the Bruins out there when in the third period came. I think they thought, all right, we've got 20 minutes to try to get to, not we've got 20 minutes to try to get to and also make sure they don't get any more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, for me, I'm sorry, this goes back to coaching. This coach was one bad bounce away from losing his job 4 days ago. He's not any different. This dude is a bum. He's a fucking bum.
It's funny how quickly opinions can change because I'm sitting there after we score the first goal and we had killed I think a power play or 2 power plays at that point. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, Panthers were like 0 for 14 and we were 5-0 against the Panthers this season. And I'm like sitting there, they brought up the stats and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, we didn't give Monty enough credit. Maybe he went and watched that whole series and did his homework and kind of figured out how to stifle the Panthers. Opinion quickly changed because he did the opposite of a coaching job tonight, letting Pasta fight, not chirping the refs. Like, he kind of just gave up at the end. I would have been screaming at the refs.
Right, like
some of that shit that happened at the end of the game.
And to your point, like to the 6th goal, which only happened. The only reason the 6th goal happened is because Montour spears Brad Marchand,
which is ridiculous.
As Marshy's coming back, Marshy's in the fetal position when that goes off. Somehow nobody sees that. Like, that's one of those. A Claude Julien who had his flaws. But one thing Claude Julien would not have allowed to happen was it to get to that point. He'd have been climbing over the boards after the James Van Riemsdyk missed call that then led to a goal. He'd have been screaming at them down the tunnel. He'd have been following them down the tunnel to make sure, hey, when you come out for the 3rd period, you fucking owe us like 5. And if not, I will fucking find your sister. Like, he would have. And Monty is just so Mr. fucking schoolboy.
And like, talk about Montour doing
Mr. Clean needs to get the fuck out from behind these benches. Like, let Sacco do it, because Sacco at least was mouthing off on the side. Like, they would try to zoom in on Montgomery, and you just see Sacco in the background going, "Fuck, man, fuck this shit, fuck it all." Like, fucking just let him fucking do it.
The one that's inexcusable is the too many men. What is that? The 5th of the playoffs? What,
the 6th.
Are we just going to do one a game?
9 games. The 6th in 9 games.
That
is entirely on coaching.
That's inexcusable. And he's
a bum.
It's not something that we just picked up. Like, there were quite a few in the regular season too. So,
yeah,
I mean,
no, he's a bum. He's a bum. I don't care how far the Bruins can win the cup, and I'm going to call for this dude's job because he's a fucking bum. He's a bum. We've been winning in spite of him, not because of him.
We've been winning because Jeremy Swayman stood on his head for fucking 10 games in a row.
In spite of Montgomery, not because of Montgomery. Like, I don't see the level of give a shit from Montgomery. And as a fan, like, I don't know. I don't have the privilege of being in that locker room. So I don't know what he's like when the cameras aren't around. I think I've seen enough of Beyond the B or Behind the B to know that he's not exactly the
it's a player's locker room.
He's not exactly a motivational speaker. He's not in there taking control and doing any of that. And if it's going to be a player's locker room, then the players need to perform. If the players don't perform, then you need to kick out the lazy asshat who's just collecting a paycheck to let the players run it themselves and get a real coach in there. Like, I don't think this performance happens with a Mike Babcock coach team. I'm not saying Mike Babcock should be the coach of the Bruins. I'm just saying it doesn't get out of control like this when the coach is a coach and isn't
Peter Laviolette or Tortorella.
He's a babysitter. He's a babysitter back there. Yeah. And like the babysitter that the kid, like, there's like a 15-year-old babysitting a 13-year-old, and the 13-year-old's like, why is she in charge? She can dial 911 a little faster than I can? Like, why are you here, man? You can't do anything I can't do. Like, I also can't drive a car by myself. I also can't order alcohol by myself. But I can use the microwave and know not to put my tongue on the stove. Like, why are you here? So, why is he here? He's a fucking bum. He's a bum, and he has a job.
It's a fair assessment. I think I want to move on from this game, though. Let's put this one in the history books. It's both teams have kind of had a wash, and the series is even going into Boston. I feel like if we started the series saying that, we'd say we're in great shape.
I was thinking about that with like a minute 20 left. I was thinking, if we had gotten our ass kicked game 1 and then had come out game 2. Like if the score lines had been the exact same, but the games had been reversed,
yeah,
I think we would have been sitting here a much more optimistic crowd. And that's what I'm trying to tell myself, and to not completely crater into the oblivion that is a 5-game knockout. But if we'd gotten our pants kicked, you and I both have been sat here saying fatigue. Why are we playing 48 hours after game 7? Why do we get no rest? Why is Edmonton only playing game 1 tonight when we're finishing game 2? They haven't even started game 1. What is this scenario? Like we'd have, and then if they had turned it around and won game 2, we'd have been like, all right, going back to Boston. Hey, if you had told me we were splitting on the road in Florida in a playoff series, we both would have taken it. I think we've cathartically gotten a lot of our frustration out on this. I no longer feel like I want to go downstairs and put my fist through a 80-inch TV. But I do feel like the order of the games does matter, because now I do think that the pressure shifts now to Boston to be really good in the first 10, 15 minutes of game 3. If we had if we had been blown out game 1 and blew them out game 2, game 3's initial, like, what I feel like there would have been a more leeway from the Garden crowd. I don't think we're going to see a lot of leeway. I think it's going to be, 100%. Hey, show us you give a shit, or we're going to wait for the Celtics because they're playing tomorrow, and they're kind of our city's team now anyway. For like, I'm not exactly sure when that transition happened, but I was watching the Celtics game yesterday, and the Garden never lost faith in them, even when they were up 12-2, and then all of a sudden it was 12-10. The Garden was willing the Celtics back in a way that we don't see with the Bruins anymore. The Bruins are very much a prove to us you deserve our support. And so I think the pressure's on them first 10, 15 minutes of game 3.
The pressure's definitely on the Bruins. I think they're probably going to come out of this game with a little extra juice because of the way it turned out, at the end there with all the fights and everything. So, I mean, it's time to prove it. It is interesting. I'm a little I was thinking that the same thing that you just mentioned, though. We should probably talk about it, about the Edmonton and Vancouver. Like, how come we got forced to play a game 2 days later? Like, I swear the NHL must have a contract with the Garden in Boston saying, oh, we want a sports team playing every other day so the bars can make extra money or something, because what other reason was there for that? Like, that just didn't make sense to me, especially with us being in Florida. If we were both in Boston, it's one thing. But both teams were in separate places.
Yeah, it's I don't know, and I honestly
But I mean,
I'm sure there's a logistic thing in there somewhere that made it like this. I don't know what. It's sketchy on the surface. It might even be a little sketchy on the side on in the reality, but I mean,
I thought it was sketchy going into game 1, and then we beat them 5-1. So I guess it's already a wash anyway. But
yeah,
at this point, it can't really matter. You brought it up.
Yeah, no,
they play every other day during the regular season. So, and there's guys coming in and out of the lineup. Like, if you can't be fresh in the playoffs, you don't deserve to win.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not prepared to play, whatever, 28 games every other day, which you wouldn't even be. We've already, like, it's already not that. But if you can't play 28 games every other day for the Stanley Cup, I mean, we have long lauded this as the hardest trophy in professional sports to win because of the grind. So if you are not conditioned for the grind, then that might tell you something about whether or not you're of the capacity to be an NHL player. Like, if you all of a sudden I need 4 days in between my games, otherwise I can't be, then get the fuck out. Then you're a bit timer. You're a part timer that is on a 2-way contract. Like, the reality is in the big moments, the big guys step up. And I'm going to be honest, today, Jeremy Swayman still stepped the fuck up. He stepped all the way up until 1959 of the second period when he got beat by his own player's screen. Marchand and McAvoy, which was only caused because we couldn't get it. Like, if we go into that 2-1, completely different game.
I agree.
And he had just stood on his fucking head to do everything he possibly could to get us
right
there.
Before that. Yeah, 2 seconds.
Right before that. Yeah. Double stuff. A double stuff from the belly down butterfly.
Yeah. Like between the JVR non-call and then that, like, you feel like if we go into the period 2-1, you feel like it might have swung in a different direction. But I know
there would have at least been I don't know. At the same time, I don't know how the fuck you're down 3-1, which is still an overcomable obstacle, and you come out on the back foot in the third period. Once again, that's on coaching for me. Period. I don't know what else to call it other than terrible locker room management.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I like, those are the moments where you have to come out first.
Let's be honest. These guys are all skilled enough to play without a coach, right? Like, let's not pretend like any coach in the NHL is teaching guys concepts they've never heard of or thought of before. Like, that's not what coaching is at this level. This isn't, here's how you shoot the puck, and here's how you connect with a one-timer, and here's how you go to your forehand to backhand to forehand. That's not what's happening. Like, this isn't peewee hockey coaching. Like, we're not teaching these guys any new tricks. You are man managing, and you are trying to figure out complementary play styles, players. Like, that is what you're doing there. Part of that is motivating these significantly overpaid entertainers and athletes to play like they are worth the money that they are making. That is their entire job. They're not there to coach, teach you how to skate, teach you how to stop, anything like that. Like, you made it onto the NHL roster because somebody else and many other people in your past have taught you that. No one's teaching Jeremy Swayman how to block, a shot.
And if it is someone teaching him, it's not the head coach, it's the goalie coach. So
right,
there's
plenty of reasons. It's none of that. Like, literally, your job is to make sure these guys are conditioned and to make sure they are motivated. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I have yet to see us start a game or a period where it's like, oh, coach got into him. Coach let him know, like, hey, it's time to fucking nut up or shut up. Like, do you want this or do you not want this? Like, oh, a bruise on the leg is a hell of a long way from the heart. Thought you were a hockey player. Like, I'm sorry. At this point, Jim Montgomery at every intermission just needs to play clips from Miracle and just leave the room and let Herb Brooks fucking do it.
Honestly, it's not the worst thing.
It's not the worst thing. It's not the worst thing.
I'll take some of the blame for this game because apparently I can't bet on the Boston Bruins. I bet when they were down 2-1, parlayed it with Edmonton. Edmonton's up 2-0. But
already?
Every game I've bet on the Bruins 3 times this postseason. They have gotten stomped. They've gotten stomped every game I've bet on them.
Stop doing it.
I'm withdrawing it all from DraftKings.
Yeah,
I'm sending it to you, Pat, to put in a locker.
No, I want to talk about hold on to it for football season.
You'll get rid of it quicker than me.
I can't bet down here. You can bet it. Hold on to it for football season.
That's right. All right. I want to talk about one last thing. I told you I've been up since 5 a.m. and now we're putting this one in the rear view. Why is Charlie McAvoy our 4th best D on the team for 9 games now? Maybe he had one good game. Maybe he had one. Brandon Carlo is playing out of his mind. I'm finally seeing the physicality and kind of grit that we've always, honestly wanted out of him. He's showing up. McAvoy looks like a lost puppy out there.
He's
and costing us in big moments is always.
It is.
It always
it's
seems
always
to
in
be
big
like
moments.
his
It's always in
his
big
mistakes
moments.
always lead to goals, whereas some people get away with it. It just seems like if he makes a mistake, it's costing us.
Yeah, and I think so. To touch on that, I think one of the reasons it's like his mistake immediately almost always equals significantly poor result or potential poor result is because everybody, when he has the puck, assumes it's going to be okay. He's going to do the right thing and get out of whatever he's doing.
Good point.
My thing is this is now like the third year in the playoffs in a row, going back to Carolina 2021, where when the lights are the absolute brightest, like I would love for Charlie McAvoy to come out game 3 just with eye black on. Like just reflect the light out. Because when the lights are that bright, I don't know if he grips his stick or ties his skates to or what. He biffs it a lot. I'd love for him to just come out with like some Michigan Wolverine, just fucking full face eye black, just blocking out the lights. Because when he is playing like this is game 55, he's flying. He doesn't make these mistakes. He's dangling through dudes, and it's nasty. But all of a sudden, when it's a 1-goal game in a playoff game, it's like,
like you can just tell with any sport, any athletes, like sometimes like there's players that can just block out the noise and treat it like it's the 65th game in the regular season. And then there's others you can just tell they have that added pressure in the back of their mind.
He doesn't have the Tom Brady mentality.
I have the puck on my stick. And it's 1-0. Like I feel like that runs through his mind as that play is building. Whereas some players shut that out of their mind. And
he doesn't have that Brady mentality. He doesn't have that. Yeah, it really is. The first 2 goals were both directly impacted by poor play on his part. Him losing his stick and then playing like he still had his stick. Yeah, like like on that second goal, he makes a move to the outside of the cage like he has his stick.
Yeah, that was kind of stupid.
And it's going to be able to just flip over and get a stick. It's like, all you've got is your body. Just put your, just go chest to chest on a dude and just be like, you push me over, it's a penalty. You push me over, it's a penalty. Yeah. I'm right here. You push me over, it's a penalty. Like, but no, he instead decides to play it like he's still got a stick, leaves him wide open. Like,
and to your point,
that was another one where he could have cleared. When he lost his stick, he had the opportunity to clear and instead tried to do a funky whatever. Like, I'd much rather see these guys ice it than turn it over in our zone anymore. Like, we're trying to make that extra that we're like, ooh, I don't know if I can get it to a guy. I could ice it or I could try this. At this point, this should tell you for game 3, just fucking ice it. Half the time, it might not be called anyway.
They also did that thing a few times tonight, maybe 2, maybe 3 times, where the puck was kind of in between all 4 of our players. And no Panther were technically really close, but we all looked at each other like, who's going to get it out? And then
it was the Spider-Man meme. It was the Spider-Man meme.
We let Florida kind of then break up the play. So, yeah, I mean, we're throwing this one in the rear view. I got to fucking go to bed. Hopefully we're celebrating on Friday for the weekend, and then we have a 6:30 on Sunday game. So
yeah, this Friday is going to be interesting. My in-laws are going to be in town. I am not changing a thing. They've seen me in playoff mode before. This will not come as a surprise to anybody, so I'm not changing a thing. But
Mr. Robertson, Montreal Canadiens are out of the playoffs by a long shot.
So we've got we'll see whether or not I can get him to don some black and gold, or whether or not he's just going to be our good luck charm, because I'm just going to be hearing him chirp in the back, and I'm going to chirp right back.
For those of you that don't know, Pat's in-law is a diehard Montreal Canadiens fan. So we've had a couple rough conversations. Even though we love him, it's tough.
Yeah, well, he will bring the very good whiskey. So no matter what, there will be that involved. No. All right, let us absolutely bury game 2 in the backyard where it belongs, under like the cat. And
Charlie McAvoy.
Oh, your words and also mine. All right, buddy. Let's officially stick a fork in this one. Game 2, it happened, but it didn't happen. And we now get to come back to the Garden, tied 1-1. I think we both would have agreed if you had given us 1-1 5 days ago, we would have said, absolutely, let's go.
Best of 5 series.
Yeah, so let's just go fucking get it. Let's just go fucking get it. Put Swayman back in net. Ullmark did nothing to make me think like he still has the Panthers number. That's Swayman's net.
I will also be down the Cape, so I will probably be drinking just as much whiskey as you. So we'll see how our live reaction goes.
This is going to be an interesting reaction Friday. All right, buddy. I look forward to puck drop on Friday. I think that's another 7:30 Eastern game, or is it 8?
I think you're right.
7:30. All right.
Might be an 8.
One of the two.
Either way.
It's not the 1 p.m. that somebody got me all scared on Twitter when they're like, "Are you kidding me?"
It's a 7 p.m.
7. So oh, Jesus.
Even better.
Okay. Well, then I will see you earlier than expected. And hopefully we're talking about a little different situation come then.
Yep, we need to see a lot. Let's get it.
All right, buddy. Good job by you.